Hi everyone, today let's talk about Alphabet earnings. Do me a quick favor and like and subscribe and watch the video till the end to help out the channel, and let's get started. So Alphabet crushed earnings and they blew out cloud revenue up at 11.35 billion, nearly 35% higher from the 8.4 a year ago. Absolutely massive. And this is on the back of the extreme cost-cutting efforts from Alphabet. You can see we're up about 5% after hours. You love to see it. And I'm sure the Google CEO is super excited about it as well. You can see earnings $2.12 versus $1.85. Revenues beating 88.27 billion versus 86.3. YouTube beat cloud revenue, obviously the massive beat and the big grower. Revenues grew 15% year over year, stronger than the same quarter the last year. So everything continues to be good here for Alphabet, and we've been talking about this stock as a pretty good setup, and sometimes you see it like that, where you get a good setup going into earnings and it plays out that way, and we'll definitely take a look at it on the charts later. Search revenue was up 12.3% to 49.4 billion. Search is obviously still their largest piece of the business, and advertising doing very well, also 65.85 billion. Obviously that's not all exclusive. Part of that is your search business, because total revenues was 88.27 billion, so can't be all of that exclusive, but still good growth. Net income, very, very good, 26.3 versus the 19.7 expectation, 19.7 from a year ago. So again, everything continues to look good, and I would guess there's going to be some follow through depending on what we see out of their forward guide. The other piece that I want to hear a little bit more about is obviously AI. How is their Google Assistant and their Gemini app doing, and how is that going to be joined with DeepMind within their AI sector? Moving over to fear and greed, really this has not moved. We're at a 60 from a 61 the previous day, continues to chop sideways despite pricing actually going a little bit higher here today. Still greed on momentum, still fear on strength. Breadth continues to crater here back into neutral. Put call ratio also in neutral. Volatility pulled back here slightly today. And then Safe Haven and junk bonds still in extreme greed. Those have not moved really over the last while. Junk bonds has been moving lower, but it's been in extreme greed for a bit now. Moving over to the earnings calendar, you can see Google beating on both, Visa beating on both. AMD, they did beat and meet on the bottom line, but their forward guide was a little bit weak. We talked about it in this morning's charts. Thought it could have been a good setup, but seems to be going lower. Maybe we'll look at it later. McDonald's beat on both. Good to see that. American Tower missing pretty big. Wonder what's going on there. Minus $1.69 versus $1.58 expectation. Wonder if there's something weird with the numbers there, or if they're taking a loss from forward or something. Chipotle missed on the top line, beating on the bottom. PayPal also missing on the top line. That was another one we were watching this morning. That came out pre-market. Markets did not like that result already this morning. And then looking at tomorrow, it does not get any lighter. We have Microsoft, Meta, Eli Lilly, AbbVie, Booking.com, Garmin, always interesting, eBay, we talked about it. Clorox for those staples, want to see how they're doing. And then for Thursday, we still have Apple, Amazon, MasterCard, so Uber, Comcast continues to be a big week of earnings. Moving over to the economic calendar, consumer confidence, very, very good. 108.7 versus 99.5. Previous number also revised up. Good news there. JOLTS job openings missing fairly substantially. Previous number also revised down, so jobs market weakening. Hopefully that doesn't translate into the Friday. If it does, that could be very, very weak. We still have ADP non-farms, want to see how those do. Expectation is already lower than the previous, as well as GDP for tomorrow at 8:30, fairly interesting. Initial jobless claims, PCE data here for the Thursday. And then Friday is all of that economic data. Unemployment rate going to be big. Want to see that hold in there, maybe step up one little tick. If it does, though, I think markets are going to be quite bearish, so watching that closely at 4.1 for the Friday. Moving over to Max Payne, this moved up slightly here, pretty much in line with that Friday close, which stepped up a little bit as well. I think 581, stock price 581.87, so pretty much right on top of it. Puts continue to be really high, calls not so much, so it's relatively bullish there. Understand that we do have a bunch of bearish Max Paynes here going into the Thursday session, which is interesting. See how that plays as we go into that earnings, as well as the economic data that we just talked about, and then we'll see if we get the bounce into the Friday. But right now, this is projecting just a little bit of bearishness. Moving over to the charts, starting off with the SPY here. This continues to look a little bit weird with this really choppy price action. Broke out, broke down, retest, up a little bit after hours on the Google results. Momentum stepping to bullish, interesting, but still can't get above this trend line here. In fact, we didn't even touch it here today at 583.83. high of day was 582.90. But if it can get back above this, maybe we see a continuation of this structure. It's not super common to see rising wedges break up. I have seen it before. It's not impossible, but it's not super common, like I said. And we're right now retesting that resistance. We'll see. Seems like we'll touch it tomorrow on that Google result. Momentum here giving me a little bit more bullish of an idea to the upside. Again, need to see it get above this, hold the level, and then push. If it does, then maybe we see a push up to the 600 area. That could be interesting. We've been in this pattern for so long, it would be kind of odd for me to see this not break in the way that you would expect, but you never know. Anything's possible. And then looking at it here on the short time frames, again, looks really choppy, sideways action, big breakdown. We're expecting the retest. Sure enough, we got it. I was kind of looking for a bit of a sell here in the morning, and we did get a pretty big head fake. You can see the low there was 578.43, so pretty substantial low. Broke yesterday's low, broke this low back from Friday. During the session, almost got as low as the after hours price action, but ended up holding, pushing back above it. Now we're back above all the EMAs and SMAs, looking for a touch of that trend. So again, momentum slightly bullish here. Big volume on that selling candle at the end of day. Interesting to see that. And then having the good Google result. Maybe we're going to get some bad earnings in the future that's going to pull this back down. But for right now, it looks like we're going to push to this trend here around the 584 area on the hourly. Moving over to the Tasty charts here for the 4 hour on the S&Ps, you can see we are getting that swing up off of the 55 EMA, which is right there at 580.38. We're still in bearish conditions. You do have that trailing stop there. Volume today was decent, and you can see we're pushing up here right at that first ATR band. That is at 582.82. Your next ATR band target would be 585.12, and then you have the ATR trailing stop at 586.56. That's where we would have to get into and close above it to get back into bullish conditions based on the 4 hour chart. But looking at the hourly here just for a moment, you can see we are in bullish conditions, retested that ATR trailing stop. And this is why it's important to have those levels. You can see we tested it deeply, hit the lowest band, held that level on a closing basis, and now we're still in bullish conditions. And I would be looking for a retest of that upper band, which is that 584.34 level, which is actually right in line with the trend line that we just talked about on the previous charts. Then moving over to the NASDAQ, you can see we're kind of watching this as a rising wedge, more as a trend, waiting to see a break above this level here. And once it does, I think we're going to push pretty aggressively up to that 520 area. Right now, it's not doing it. Momentum looks bullish, RSI looking bullish. After hours up about $1 on that Google move. So everything looks good. The day was about 1% higher. More bullish than I would have expected. And again, you can see we had that dip early, hit the 9 EMA at 494.30, but then we ended up closing pretty bullish. Want to see it hold those gains. And in this structure, that is a new high close, and we are getting very close to that all-time high back from the 10 July candle. So waiting to see if that happens. And then looking at it on the short time frames, again, very deep cut early, hit the 200 there at 494, pretty much 494 flat like we talked about, and then we pushed straight up throughout the session, very aggressive. After hours we're at 501. That trend right there is 502.28, and then you can see the all-time high is that 503.52 level. So we're definitely within striking range of it. Volume all day was bullish. Interesting. You don't see that very often. And we'll see how this continues to play into the after hours and pre-market tomorrow. Obviously, tons of earnings and tons of data can make this change direction. So I wouldn't say it's just going to go straight up from here, but for right now, it looks okay. Then moving over to the Tasty charts here for the Qs, you can see we got 3 big bullish candles. Everything continues to look good. We're at the second ATR band. That's at 589, which is where we are pretty much right now, 580 cents. Now that upper ATR band is up at 503.85, which is pretty much in line with your all-time high. Seems like we're going to get there. Still bullish conditions. We've been in bullish conditions since back here on the 25th, so everything continues to look good here. But I did want to highlight on the hourly chart just for a moment that we are already at that upper ATR band. We are back into bullish conditions with today's price action. We were slightly bearish there for a second, but bullish conditions back into it here today, hitting that upper ATR band at 593. So might see this slow down just a little bit. Last time we hit it, we pulled back dramatically, hit it again, pulled back. Now we're here again. Is it going to hold the higher low and push? Seems more likely after today's move, but just something to consider. And you can see big volume on that last candle, which was not a super great one. So another consideration. Still looks bullish, but just some things to note. Moving over to the Russell and the Dow. The Russell was down 0.32 on the day, broke really low. Low of day was all the way 219.97. So broke all the EMAs here in the short term, hit VWAP, broke that. And then we ended up closing back above 221.49, which was the level I was watching initially. Still cannot get above that 9 EMA, which is 221.91. Really want to see it hold this steady, push up to this trend line here, and then we'll see what happens. 224.60, 224.50, somewhere in that region is where I want to see the touch. Momentum still stepping to bullish. RSI a little bit more concerning, stepping up, rejecting here today. See how it plays in tomorrow's session. I did end up holding this position, but I'm a little bit more hesitant today. The breakout yesterday looked very clean, and the fact that we didn't get any follow through on it was a little bit concerning. So otherwise, looking at the Dow, down 0.37, momentum still bearish, wicked VWAP, sold off some more. It's up a smidgen after hours, but still looks not so great. This is doing more what I thought the S&Ps were going to do with the big fake out breakout, consolidation, retest of trend, sell off. Still looking for that 418.38 level. Moving over to the Mag 7, you can see the Mag 7 had a good day, 1.19% higher after being basically flat in yesterday's action. After hours, obviously up quite a bit, about $4 there, back above the all-time high if it ends up holding. That was 290.65. After hours price action is 292.13. And looking at the hourly just for a moment, you can see that clean breakout here after hours, continuing to hold momentum bullish. Definitely a little extended on the hourly chart, but looks very clean to the upside. Moving over to some stocks we talked about in this morning's video, we had PayPal earnings. That was down 4%. Ended up hitting the level and bouncing pretty substantially. 77.94 was the level. Pushed right back to the next one at 80.86. It's down a smidgen after hours, but ended up closing quite a bit better than I would have guessed. Still looks bearish, but hanging in there. Momentum bearish, RSI bearish. Volume obviously big on the day. So we'll see if it can hold this level, maybe get above 88.86. If it can, that would be bullish, but right now it looks like resistance. And then AMD, this was the bigger disappointment. So during the session, it did exactly what we thought. So we had this clean move here. We were expecting the acceleration, broke through here, broke my level 165.36. So hit that initial price target and closed pretty much at the top of the candle. Everything looked very good for a push to 174.23, but I looked at it later and saw that earnings was today, and sure enough, the earnings was a bit of a dumpster fire. You can see after hours price action all the way down at 153. So quite unfortunate. The move was very clean, continued to do very well on technicals. Now we've pulled back to this trend here. That ended up being a low back from the 23rd. We'll see if it can hold that. Maybe there's some kind of movement on AMD, but usually earnings is kind of a trump card. So if they can't put out some better guidance, this is probably going to break down to the 144.93 area. But right now we're at a potential trend support. So unfortunate, especially with the follow through we saw today. Moving over to Apple and Microsoft. Apple was positive on the day, but down after hours. You can see falling about $1. Momentum still bullish. RSI rejecting off the SMA, rejecting off the trend line here. Really no change to the thesis. Looks like we're going to reject off this trend line again. And then looking at Microsoft, huge update, 1.26%. This continues to look very good. Tested the level again and then bounced. Momentum bullish, RSI bullish. Should have got in on this trade here today, and I just didn't. And now you can see after hours sympathy play on that cloud earnings from Google. So cloud seems to be doing well. So Microsoft and Amazon are going to do well. And now this is probably going to push to the 440 area. Super unfortunate. Missed that opportunity. Didn't have the alert, but at least I took the trade on Google. So seems like we're okay. And this should have another 1% higher at least. Moving over to Amazon and Google. Like I said, Amazon sympathy play up $3 after hours. So big candle, 1.3% higher. Momentum bullish, RSI bullish. Broke through this consolidation, headed to the 194.49 level. This should have good earnings. 255 cents is the next level above this one if it can break out. Based on this move, seems like it could. And then you have Google, obviously massive, all the way up at 181.30 on their earnings. We talked about this being a left shoulder head, right shoulder. This right shoulder was kind of choppy, really consolidative, but then we had a big push on the Monday. We said that we thought that was bullish, especially with the touch and finding support. So bullish really Friday into the Monday. Strong candle here today, took a position into the earnings, and now we got a big pop. So good move. Everything looks good there. really need to give this another level. For now, we'll just call it the top of this previous peak, which is 193.31, the very top of that 10 July candle, which I believe is the all-time high here for Google. So, yep, all-time high for Google. Seems like we could be within striking range of that once again. Moving over to staples and discretionaries, staples finally doing what we thought it was going to do. We said yesterday we thought that it held up better than it looked like it would, and then we gapped down and fell through the level like we expected it to. The initial price target was this low from the 7 candle, which was basically my level, 80.54. We hit that today, sold some more. After hours, it's popping up a little bit, but my next support is going to be that 79.94 level. Realistically, we should be looking for the gap fill back here to the 14th, and then discretionaries gap down and fell as well, not as far, only 0.58. Could not quite get to that level at 203.98. After hours, it's hanging in there a little bit better. Needs to get back above the 200.53 level. Momentum still bullish, RSI still bullish. I still think this will go, but it's going to be pretty heavily dependent on that Amazon earnings, so we'll see how that plays. Again, should be good based off of the cloud result from Google. And then let's take a look here at communications and transport. It's been a long time since we looked at communications. You can see big breakout here above this consolidation at the 88.02 level. Clean break, rallied up, established a new level at 91.48, slight pullback from there, and then rallied into the last 3 days. And then you can see the Google move pushing this up another $1. This is all-time highs, continues to be price discovery, momentum bullish, RSI bullish. So communications on a run for right now, and then transports got a strong day actually, 0.51, momentum swinging to bullish. The concern here is that this is a breakdown retest, and now we're getting a bit of a fall after hours, down at 69.53, fell about $1 after hours back to this 21 EMA VWAP, my level 69.28. So somewhere in here, interesting. We'll see if that area holds, but this breakdown retest breakdown thesis is definitely concerning, especially if this pushes to a lower low down to that 67.85 level. That would be very concerning. That would be a change in structure on transports, and usually is a flash of a warning sign for the economy as a whole. Moving over to RIOT and Marathon, these continue to go up just about every day, it seems like. RIOT up 2.94%, momentum still bullish, still overbought, gapped up and dojied. A little bit concerning there. You could see the gap down island reversal style move, but we're above all the EMAs and SMAs, looking for a push up to this 14 area. And then Mara, I liked this one a little bit better. We'll see if it can hold up. We broke the 200. We're still holding the level at 1878. If it breaks below this, that's going to be very concerning. But for right now, it's holding it. Looks like a breakout retest. Want to see it continue that push up. I just think there's more in it here. If Mara can push, I think there's a lot of room where we could get one of those parabolic runs similar to what we saw here, where you can have like an 18% day, something like that. So interesting setup here. We got the breakout. Want to see it continue that run here tomorrow. Again, if it breaks down, it is what it is, just a failed breakout. Moving over to 20 and 50 day breadth. Breadth continues to look terrible, so markets eventually this will catch up, I believe, but for now markets are holding up well with breadth cratering again, 13.5% and 8.8%, very close to the levels. 50 day getting close to that 52.81 level, broke the trend, gonna touch that in my opinion. Last time that was the bottom, and then we got a really good move up into that 83.83 area from here. See if that ends up being a bottom again, or if it's going to cut through here into these previous lows. Closer to the 40 to 43 area could be interesting. Momentum and RSI still very bearish. Similarly here on 20 day, looking for a 36.60 touch. If we did get a move like the previous one, that would take us all the way to 28.21. Who knows where it's going? Either way, both of these look pretty bad for now. Moving over to bonds, looking at yields for the 2-year and the 10-year. These finally showing some decent weakness. So we got a gap up for the Monday, held the level and then fell. Similarly here on the 10-year, gapped up, dojied, threw a big wick to that new relative high and then sold off, closed on the low. Want to see this sell off some more, give equities a little bit of room, but it's very extended, very overbought, momentum finally starting to fade. Hopefully this sells off some more here back into the 4 range. And really I'd like to see this 2-year go back down to the 3.5 range back here. We'll see how it plays out, but for right now, equities are kind of being held down by these yields climbing so aggressively. Similarly here on the dollar, through another big wick, finding resistance at this 104.41 level. Every time so far since we've gotten above it, we continue to sell off. You could argue higher low, higher low, higher low here on the hourly, but we'll see. Right now, Daily chart showing clear resistance, big pin bars at that clear level. Momentum fading, RSI fading. I think we're below, yep, we're below the SMA there. Very extended on that SMA at a 70.1. Very rare that you see the SMA get overbought. So clear resistance. Seems like the dollar is finally starting to fade. If yields in the dollar start to roll over, maybe that gives us some more bullishness on equities, but for now, still holding at resistance. And similarly here on bonds, the inverse of yields, finding a low, finding a bounce, holding the level 96.51 here on J&K, and then TLT, same thesis really. Big wick low, caught a bounce, ended up positive on the day, finding some room after hours. Maybe we finally found that big bottom, that capitulation style move. And honestly, I like this momentum stepping here, and RSI right at the SMA. SMA almost oversold as well, inverse of the dollar at 31.77. So almost oversold. RSI finding higher lows. Seems like this is going to catch a move here. That I might actually look for a short-term position here on TLT if this continues to look good in tomorrow's session. Want to see a break of that 92.82 level. Moving over to the VIX. VIX continuing to stay basically flat, down 2.3%, but still in the same exact trading range. Tested 20 level, momentum bearish, RSI bearish. Now this is starting to look a little bit more like a lower low setup. Again, still holding support, still could break higher, but it doesn't look as good today with the big wick rejection from that same high. So see how it plays out. Momentum bearish, RSI below the SMA. So looks a little bit worse here today if you're trying to trade this for some downside action, but see how it plays out. If it starts to break these levels, then obviously that should be a little bit of bullishness for equities. Moving over to my accounts, I made some decent money here on the day. I don't know how much of all of this is real because you can see $1,000 profit here on those Google shares, but I did sell a 170 call for $6. So realistically, my max profit should be about a $6 or about a $5.50 profit there. So we'll see how that plays. I might roll this to next week. We'll see depending on how this price action looks. I don't know if I can even get any more credit on it, but either way, should be a decent profit of a couple $100. IWM rolled out to 221 for tomorrow's session for $1 credit. Almost at max profit there already. Again, might have to roll that another day. With Breadth rolling over, maybe this goes with it a little bit more tomorrow. Was down today, might be down a little more tomorrow. And then Mara did end up taking a position here. I'm trying to do a better job of getting into some positions on these setups. I have a bad tendency of letting these good setups go, and I do like that Mara setup. Didn't take a big position. I just bought a call for about 93 cents. Pretty good risk reward. If it does do the move that I think that it will, then I should be able to get a couple $100, only risking $1 here. So see how that plays. And then Q's rolled out to 2 days from now to $4.97 for $6. So max profit in 2 days from now is going to be $503.06. So that gives me about $300 per set of shares, 2 sets of shares. So another potential for a $600 profit there. Again, it was a good day on the shares. Overall, should be decent, but my guess is that some of this profit on this Q position is going to go away once we see market open tomorrow. But overall, pretty good. Should be close to about 1,000 on the day. Let me know down in the comment section what you thought of Google earnings and where you think the rest of the Mag 7 earnings are going to go. Otherwise, like and subscribe if you got any value out of this video, and make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Of course, none of this is financial advice. This is all for entertainment purposes. Good luck in your trading and have a great day.